what it turns out
Yeah.
is all the stuff I did to get ready for my trip to Albuquerque fucked my files up. So I finally figured it all out. This is where version control completely fell apart. The version that I have on this computer, on my desktop, was completely different than the version I had on the little laptop I brought with me.
That's
and
weird.
I'm not sure how that happened, but the version I had on my little laptop that I brought with me had a bunch of the old versions of unedited chapters in the master document. And the version I had on this computer only had one old chapter in it, which I fixed.
All right.
So the master document that we have now is actually the one that contains all of the edited versions of chapters.
Okay.
So it took me forever to figure that out because everything was different on the two computers. So what I wound up doing is putting the I took the master document off my laptop, I put it on this computer, opened them up side by side, scrolled through them, found all the places they were different, and then opened up the folder that has all of the various versions of the chapters that we've sent to each other, sorted that by date.
Good Lord.
So that I could get the most recent version of all of them, went through and scrolled through those to make sure that they matched what was in the master document. And we are fixed. Now, having said all of that, every problem that existed here was caused by me. I'm not throwing fucked this up in the process of I was thinking I was clever getting all my stuff on my laptop for the trip to Albuquerque. So I have fixed all the things I broke. We're ready to go again. But between that and the stuff that's going on with health things with my family, I didn't get a lot of other work done, unfortunately. But we are ready to do actual work now.
No problems.
We are at a point now where we can do actual work. And the master document that I sent out, you can safely put work in that because that is the real one.
All right.
And that's the one I sent out yesterday.
So one of the things that I think could screw us up in the future is if I start twiddling on this master document and you start twiddling on that master document.
No. What I meant was if you have chapters that you want to work on, the information that's in this master document is the correct one to go off of.
This is canon.
This is the canon master document.
Back in the day, when we were working with Mark and Hawk, they would use the term "the football." Who has the football?
Who has the football? Yep.
You have the football.
I do.
But my copy of the football is up to date.
It has accurate information.
All right, cool.
And I spent several days looking through many versions of the document to make sure that was true.
You see, and this is technically not as bad as just throwing the whole fucking thing out and starting over, but it has the same energy, it has the same vibe. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. Now I need to finish my and I forgot to tell you. Yeah. In the process of all of that, the document that I had on my laptop that I thought was, because I've written about 1,000 words on the Leo and Michael chapter.
Yeah.
I can't find that. All I can find is the one with the outline. So I know I have written 1,000 words, but I have no idea where it is.
Jesus Jones. Okay. So all right.
If I can't find that, I'm basically just going to start that over. But that's okay. That's not the end of the world. It's only 1,000 words. But I pulled that onto this computer and opened it up, and it was just the outline. Like there was none of the other stuff I had written. Because we both do this. We'll create the Word document, put the outline in it, and then you just start typing and they're pushing the outline down as you go and deleting outline items as you.
Yeah, actually, I had some of those tags in some of the early chapters we posted them just kind of to show people, not because they belonged there.
Yeah, but because of that, I'm used to when I open the document, the first thing I see is the outline because that's always at the top, right?
Right.
I opened it up. I scrolled down. There was nothing below it. So I don't know what I did, but this thing of having versions of the document on my laptop and versions of the document on my desktop, and not a great plan. Not a great strategy.
Little hiccup,
Yeah.
little oops. All right.
On the
That's
plus
okay.
side, other than 1,000 words of my own work, nothing has been lost. Which, yay!
So here's my question.
Yes,
I have 2 questions. First off, can you hear the dog howling in the background?
I can.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's fine. It's pretty distant. It's not.
No,
Deafening.
it's not for the recording. Just this is my life.
Yeah.
The other one is having looked at the master document at great length.
Yes.
What's your take on it? Where do you feel like we are?
I was surprised at how clean it is.
So I'm looking over it. I mean, I got this from you last night. I haven't read the whole thing through yet, but I'm looking at some of the early stuff, and there's a lot of the early stuff that actually has the things that I thought we had come up with later that are already in there. So I'm looking at, like, we already have Maya and Arizona mentioned, like,
a bunch of times
early and established. So that's not bad at all.
No, we actually, going through it made it seem like we actually knew what we were doing.
That's the magic, man. That's the illusion.
I was like, man, I actually had the same reaction to the Maya thing because we had talked about, we're going to need to make sure we put more Maya stuff in early on. That's actually not true. There's a ton of Maya stuff in there.
There's plenty already in there.
Yeah. No, she actually talks about Maya a lot.
Yeah.
So that's already in there. We do offhandedly mention that that she had moved to Arizona to be with her mother, but we don't say specifically where. So when our characters head to Arizona looking for her, but not knowing exactly where she is, that will fit with what we've already put in there.
Mm-hmm.
I did tweak. This is so small you probably won't notice, but I did tweak the thing where the apartment that she moved in with Jeremy in is different than the one he lives in now. I changed that so it's the same apartment. I also tweaked some things because there's 2 different versions of the party they first met at.
Right.
One of which I had written, and then you wrote a later one that was completely different. I tweaked that so that they're the same.
Okay.
So there's no conflict in it. But those really were the only changes I made was 2 tiny little changes. The party one and the starting apartment one were the only changes I really made. So other than that, I think we're in really good shape. I just need to get the Leo and Michael chapter written. But I don't think there's any other stuff we need to worry about changing right now. I think we're in very good shape.
I think we're in pretty good shape. There are some things that I'm going to do when we are actually at the polishing point, but we're not there yet, so I don't want to do them.
No. I mean, obviously, there's always tons of polishing you can do. But no. As far as just the general structure of the story goes, it works fairly well. And the thing I was surprised by, because this is a thing I thought we were going to have to change more than I think we're actually going to wind up having to change, is how quickly Josie sort of gets on board with Doc.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, we're going to have more sort of self-doubt. There is a ton of sections in those early where she is going, is she just crazy? Do I actually believe this? Why am I going along with this?
Mm-hmm.
We may want to add a little more of that. I don't know, but there's a lot more of that in there than I remembered being in there.
Part of the thing that I think, I'm pressing ahead to the polish, which we're not there yet.
Yeah.
The things that I am feeling that I want are sweating out double beats, sweating out situations where we kind of cover the same territory more than once, just doing it once and memorably. Doing a coordinated pass to make sure all of the timelines of where she was and what her history is all kind of fit together. And I think that when we get to that sweating out process, it's going to do a lot to make the flow of those thoughts and that progression clear.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty optimistic about that.
I having gone through it at great length and read in great detail,
Mm-hmm.
It was actually better than I remembered it being. No, seriously. I mean, because my memory of it is that it's it's a first draft and it's a little sloppy and all that kind of stuff. I went through it. I'm like, this is at this point better than a lot of people's final versions.
Because
I just read something recently where I'm like, how did this actually wind up getting published?
No, I read a book by an author I really like. I mean, it's somebody whose early work I really enjoyed, and I read it and thought, yeah.
Is this somebody we know, or is somebody just?
It is somebody. I'm not gonna name him because I don't want to
you don't want to embarrass him.
So and so's latest book is a real disappointment, but so and so's latest book is a real disappointment for me. It's not a personal friend. It's somebody whose work you are familiar with.
Okay.
And it's a person whose work I liked more than you liked, and now I'm starting to think maybe you were right.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
We'll talk about it when the
We're not going to embarrass this person.
No, that's rude. I don't want to be a dick.
But yes, the upside to having gone through it to make sure I hadn't. And the truth is, the reality is, the version that was on my desktop was way less fucked up than I thought it was, because I was going off of the laptop version, which was very fucked up. So I actually did less actual work than I thought I was going to do. But I did lots and lots and lots of double checking just to make sure.
Lots of document control.
Yeah, lots of document control.
So here's my other question. How far? I mean, one of the things that was surprising to me looking at the master document, and I should have known this, but I just haven't been putting my eyes on, is the word count. We're like 45,000 words.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we're done with the first third, right?
Well, yes, maybe. I mean, depending on if they're all the same length. Because one of the... Story-wise, do you feel like we're a third of the way through?
I feel like we're more than a third of the way through. Because here's my feeling.
Yeah, hit me.
My feeling is, just having read through this, that the stuff that we're not going to have this much stuff to do in Arizona. As much stuff as we've already done. And I think the third act is going to be very fast. I think once they get to Mexico and start doing the stuff in Mexico, I do not think it's going to take as many chapters as this opening bit took.
That's
I think
kind
the next
of my
sections
sense
are going to be shorter. Yeah,
well, and so because of some other things, I've been looking at word counts in other genres. And if it winds up being a 100K book, that's really quite respectable.
Yeah. Which
would put us way closer to halfway through the project.
Maybe we are. I don't know.
I don't either.
The we don't really have a good sense of what the outline for the last 2/3 is.
No, we know a lot of things that happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to be shorter than this once we actually sweat stuff out. I mean, I'm thinking there's a 5-6% sweat factor where we just tighten things up.
Sure, but the chapter count's not going to go down.
Chapter count's not going to go down. Word count will. Plot won't change.
I think this next, after they go get going and getting Maya, I think there's some stuff happening there. Once they start to head for Mexico, there's just not a ton of, it is the problems at the border, which I think is going to be at least 2 chapters. Getting to the border, realizing going across the border is going to be a problem, deciding to use the phase shifter to go into the Darklands to get across the border. Going through the Darklands, and then winding up in Mexico. That's at least 2 chapters.
And there's got to be, whatever the chapter after that is, the third chapter in that sequence, whatever the literal action is, that we're going to be spending some word count on processing having been through the Darklands.
Yes. Yeah. And I think very shortly after that is when they get picked up by the Federales and taken to jail, and then Michael comes to get them.
Okay.
Right.
But at that point, we're trying, and then with Michael, that's 4 or 5 chapters.
You mean with the Federales and all that?
Well, with the, getting picked up by the Federales, and with Michael coming to get them, and then with Michael taking them out to the desert.
Yeah, I think there's probably 5 or 6 chapters there. So there's getting to the border, and there's a problem. There is deciding to phase shift over. Then there's phase shifting over and getting across the border and all the craziness that happens in the Darklands. Then there is the holy shit, is that what our world's going to turn into?
Right.
We got to get there. And it is the restatement of purpose. It is if that's what our world's going to turn into, we're more dedicated than ever to getting this thing down to Starlink and
it's the conversion of Jeremy and FB into oh no, I understand now. Yes. This is no longer empty language.
And to me, that chapter ends with, because it is the restatement of purpose, it is the rededication to the cause, and the chapter ends with getting pulled over by the Federales.
Right. We're going to do this shit.
We're going to do the thing, and then the flashing lights and going, oh, shit.
We're going to die in the desert in Mexico because a billionaire wants us dead. That's going to be...
then there's probably a chapter in the Mexican jail. They're almost certainly going to kill us, and I think that chapter ends with Michael showing up, and then go, oh no, well it's the rest of the chapter is we're gonna go to a Mexican prison
and die there when the world
die in
ends.
Mexican prison. Then Michael shows up like, oh no, we're not making it that far. We're not making it to the prison.
Yeah, we're not. By the time that all that comes out, we will already be decomposing.
Right. Then you got a chapter of them all in the car with the Federales and with Michael, and driving out into the desert, and it was nice knowing you guys. I mean, at least we get to die probably of gunshots to the back of the head rather than being ripped apart by soulless demons.
Yeah,
maybe this is still a win
for us.
Yeah,
and then praise.
And then that chapter ends with they're digging the holes in the desert, and then they hear 2 pops and turn around, and the Federales are falling over, and Michael's standing there with a gun in his hand, going, "All right, put them in the holes."
Yeah, we gotta go.
We gotta go. Put those guys in the holes. We gotta go.
Yeah.
So I think that's at least even just as I described that's at least 5 chapters of maybe 6, right?
Right. So if that's, and if that's 6 chapters, at 3,000 apiece, that's a significant chunk of book. I mean, that's
But once we've gotten to that point, there's not a lot left to do, because the only things that are left to do is you go to the Starlink headquarters. Michael gets you in. You gotta hook up the XYZ Hyper Mega device to the uploader. All the shit hits the fan. Now Jeremy and Michael have to fight to keep
all of Leo's other forces are coming into
Leo's other forces
as the sharks start inundating the world. Yep. And
that's going to be a few chapters, but it's not going to be 10.
It's
probably going to be like 4 or 3, right?
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be some falling action. So yeah, I am feeling like we are deeper into this. I mean,
I feel like everything we need to do in Arizona probably happens in 3 or 4 chapters.
All right.
I think anything else we do in Arizona is going to feel like vamping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you disagree, unless you have some other major plot points we need.
No,
because Arizona is finding Maya, which you basically have. Dealing with the fallout of Maya's mother.
Right.
The arrival of the 2 hitmen.
And our people and the resolution
fleeing,
of that.
And our people fleeing, and the resolution of that with Maya's mother being the person who solves that problem.
Right.
As our guys flee. And then we're at the border. So, if we do 4 chapters in Arizona, 6 chapters getting us out of the jail cell and in the car with Michael, that's 10 chapters. We do 5 chapters of uploading to Starlink and falling, actually, that's only 15 more chapters.
Well, and
which is 45,000 more words, which is a 90,000 word book.
It's a 90,000 word book, which is perfectly respectable.
So I think we're in the ballpark there. I think
we're in the ballpark. I think you're right, and I was surprised to find. And what I was going to say was, I'm a little bit broken by having started off in doorstop fantasy and doorstop science fiction. I mean, the Expanse books are huge.
Yeah, they're big.
And I mean, the stuff I've done besides that is shorter than the Expanse books. But most of the, if you just look at the projects I've done, the Expanse books are most of them. That's just the largest word count project I've ever.
I mean, it's like the Expanse, I think, is pretty close to 2 million words with all the novellas and other things.
It's between 1.5 and 2 for sure.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that's kind of thinking, oh well, that's actually about the length of a book and a half. Each of those books is about a book and a half. And if I had it all to do over again, we'd have done the project in 80,000 word chunks and had twice as many of them.
You think?
I don't know. I mean, we'd have twice as many books out and twice as many. They would all cost just as much. So, financially would have helped us, but too late now.
But there is something to be said for would the books have been successful at that length?
Also a fair question, and that's. I mean, I'm being glib, but there's a right length for the story, and the Expanse stories were big. They needed a certain.
I don't think we're in any position to complain about how many books we've sold in the Expanse.
No, I just want to not. I need to retrain my head that not every book is 2 books long.
Right, not every book has to be 160,000 words.
Yeah,
I think I will be very surprised if this one goes longer than 100. And I think there's a version of this that is a nice tight 90.
I think you're right, and at the night tight 90, that puts us close to halfway.
I think it's misleading mentally because we've been calling this the first third, which implies that there are 2 more thirds that are the same length.
The thirds are somehow as first act would be better.
Yeah, and the acts don't have to be the same length. And we had always talked about the third act being fairly tight.
Well, and very actiony, very
actiony. Yeah, I agree. That feels very reasonable to me. I'll be very surprised if we can't wrap this up at 90,000 words.
Yeah, I mean, if the first draft goes long, so we have cutting room, I will be happy. But that's I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to cross the street to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the
only other thing I was going to ask you is. This and I don't want to distract you from whatever you were going to say, but this is something I was thinking about after I was working on the book. Is and reading through it all. Are we okay just dropping some of the characters in these last 2/3? I mean, Chip is really important in the first third, at least emotionally to Josie. Is it okay that he just doesn't have any effect on the last 2/3, or on not 2/3, the last 2 acts, I should say? Is it okay that her parents don't really have an effect on the last 2 acts? Brad is going to show up in the second act because I want that moment of him facing off with the thugs, the gun thugs. When they go on the road pursuing, because he's the piece that he gives them the piece that lets them go after the Josies down to Arizona. Right. So he's going to show up, but I think that's the last time he shows up.
So here's my first blush answer to that.
Yeah.
Is I think we touch on Chip and the parents, not physically. We don't dramatize anything with them. Yeah. But I think when the Josies and Jeremy are talking about their lives, right? In the Mexican prison, on the way out to dig holes in the desert, between firefights in Mexico City. I think we touch on those relationships, on what makes those important and what the differences were between them, and kind of, keep them alive in the story that way. And I think we see them in the falling action.
Okay.
I think the falling action is going to involve White Oak and the Scarecrow, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there, and it's like I don't think they're gone, but I don't think it makes any sense to shoehorn them into the action in the last couple acts either. So, broadly, yeah, I'm okay with dropping them.
And then the last question is, and this came up in my reread. I'll start with the end and work backwards.
Okay.
Do we still want Jeremy to kill Michael?
I don't know.
Okay. Because if we want Jeremy to kill Michael, the reason for Jeremy to kill Michael is that Michael's guys killed Brad.
Right.
And if Michael's guys killed Brad, then in the chapter where Brad tries to mislead the guys and they wind up getting the clue they need to follow them to Arizona, Brad has to get killed.
Yeah.
And that, I think, that's the next chapter after. So I write this Leo and Michael, you've got a chapter. I think
then we have to make a decision about
then
Brad.
We have to make a decision. Yeah.
I'm a sentimentalist. I feel like I don't feel like it's important to this story that Michael get killed or that Brad get killed. I mean, it can certainly work that way, but I don't.
All I'm saying is it's a decision we'll have to make pretty soon.
Yeah, let me sit with it. The ending of Michael where he has saved the world and is now on the run because he bit his billionaire boss, or shoots his billionaire boss. I mean, this is also a this is not a deeply ambiguous book. I think if we kill the bad guy at the end and the good guys go, you give the Wookiee a medal. I think I'm going to be satisfied with that.
Well, so here's part of what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked that question is this is the adventuring party going to the Tower of the Dark Lord.
Right.
It is literally the tower that Leo owns.
Yes.
In Mexico City.
Yes.
With his magic
doohickey, we've got Shelob, we got the whole thing.
We got the thing, right?
Yeah.
Which means that and he's one of the early infected.
Right.
He's got one of the early mandalas. He's
going to be one of the first to go.
Or he's the guy with magic powers. Now, obviously, magic powers in this is not literal magic powers, but it is, we talk about the kid who blew up an apartment building by building a bunch of little exothermic rockets, right?
Right.
If Leo is the Dark Lord in his tower, is he surrounded by magic wands that he has built for himself? Is he that guy?
Yeah,
right?
Entirely plausibly.
I think we've set him up to be that guy. And if that's the case, forgive me, I'm using all my cultural references here. Is this the one where Darth Vader has to throw the Emperor down the shaft?
Yeah.
Before you can blow up the Death Star, right?
Yeah, that is a fair question.
And in that case, Michael is Darth Vader.
Yeah. And is it more emotionally satisfying for Jeremy to kill Michael? For Michael to sacrifice himself? For Jeremy and Michael to sacrifice themselves together in a kind of Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid thing? I mean, all of those are different. The problem is I like Michael.
Yeah.
And I like Jeremy.
Yep.
And the part
But you never want to kill characters you like.
I don't. But I also specifically don't want to have characters I like kill other characters I like because they couldn't work their shit out. So the version of this where Jeremy kills Michael only works if I like Michael a lot less.
Okay.
So, and killing Brad would go a long way toward doing that. But then we're going to do a bunch of other stuff that's going to make me like him more. And I don't know. Might not feel coherent.
Okay.
Again, we'll need to think about it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that the piece that is a little vague right now is what that last confrontation looks like.
Yes.
So,
I'm not worried about that. I think by the time we get there, we'll have a very clear idea.
Yeah, I agree, except that a lot of the moving parts for that last confrontation are being set up now. Things like,
do we kill
Michael's
Brad?
guys kill Brad? Things like that will have a dramatic effect on what that final confrontation looks like. So I think we should start at least thinking about it.
All right.
Like, what do we want the final confrontation to sort of the shape of it to be? And then we can figure out the details later. But if the shape of it is,
well, okay, so
Jeremy versus Brad, then we need to, or Jeremy versus Michael, then we need to set that up now. If it's not Jeremy versus Michael, then we don't need to set that up.
And the things and there are some other things that we need to find about that too. Like somehow it's not going to feel right if it's not the two Josies coming together to do something hard.
Right.
Oh
no, the two Josies. The two Josies have to do the last thing.
Yes.
Sure.
And it has to involve some radical piece of trust between them, or some because we started them off in a position of kind of semi-antagonism and mutual contempt.
Yes.
So whatever we do at the end has to fix that.
Yeah. I mean, the other possible version of this is, and I think we talked about this before, is Michael and Jeremy holding off the orcs so
right.
that the Josies can face the Dark Lord in his lair, right?
Right.
And there's that version too. And that might be the more satisfying one, where the two Josies have to face the Dark Lord in his lair, and
not just Leo, but Leo's mandala and the thing that is coming through Leo.
Yeah. And they defeat him with the power of sisterly love.
Or some. Just depends on whether we're trying to sell us to Cinemax or not, right? I don't know.
Well, that's a different kind of sisterly love.
I'm just saying that's
I'm not talking the Pornhub version of sisterly love.
I'm thinking it would be easier to sell. No, I am absolutely not advocating for that. That would be. I did start watching a thing on Cinemax recently, and that is a very different aesthetic.
But Cinemax isn't Skinemax anymore. They stopped doing their late night stuff.
Yeah,
that was years ago.
Have you seen Jet?
Jet, is that the one with Carla?
Yes, it is.
I have not.
It is one of the most casually horny things I have seen in many, many years.
Really?
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm interested because I have great fondness for her.
This will not change that. Your fondness for her will not go down. No, it's everybody else you know. It is entirely filled with actors you will recognize, and some of them you have hung out with personally. So,
really, okay,
yeah. No,
I hadn't watched it. I'll have to check it out. I remember noticing it because she was in it, and I like her a lot.
Well, and it's a heist show. I mean,
heist shows are good. I
am pro heist show. And I'm not against casual nudity, and that's good because yes, there is some.
Well, I mean, good for her feeling that. I mean, because she's not a spring chicken. Good for her feeling that good about herself.
She has nothing to complain about. Having seen the pilot episode.
I saw Sin City. I know she has absolutely nothing to feel bad about.
But it is definitely that late night Cinemax vibe.
I did not know that because years ago there was like this whole thing that they were no longer going to do the late night Cinemax made for Cinemax nudie movies, and that was That was probably 5 years ago, maybe longer.
Maybe they had one left over. I don't know.
Or the series. It's a series,
yeah,
right?
It is a series. It's like a one season show.
Okay.
No, and the big bad in the pilot is Greg Brick.
Oh, really? Oh, I love Greg.
Yeah, he's awesome, and he's a bad guy, no questions.
He has a ability to be chilling. There's something about him when he goes blank, when his face just kind of goes blank. You're like, oh, I'm about to be killed. Yeah.
No, and they use that to full effect.
Yeah. He's also fantastic in what he was in a couple episodes of Fargo, playing a hitman. And yeah, no, he does. He's the guy who would be a hitman for sure.
No, sure. As far as I know, a lovely person, but really good at those roles.
Like many actors, strangely anti-science. It's a weird actor thing. All the actors fell into that whole anti-vaxxer thing. I'm not sure how that happened. Didn't they all realize Jenny McCarthy was a moron?
Yeah, she was successful. I don't know. But yeah, no, I don't. Without casting aspersions, I don't go there myself.
No.
I'm one of the writers who's like pro science.
All right. So anyway, that's where we're at. We're ready to actually ready to get rolling again. I need to rewrite my Leo and Michael stuff unless I find it on my laptop hidden somewhere that I've saved it in the wrong folder or something. Which, by the way, has absolutely happened before.
Absolutely has happened. No, I have some stuff in the stuff with the new Captives War that has nothing to do with Captives War. I really need to move that out. But all right. Well,
yeah. No, one of the Josie chapters that I knew we had written that was not in my folder of Josie chapters was in the Captives War folder.
Yeah. That's poor hygiene on our part.
All right. I think that's it. And then next week we'll have chapters and stuff, and we can keep rolling from there.
Sounds good to me.